Was that Elizabeth?
Everybody will grab a seat. I'm going to pass these the pamphlets out. On the left side, is it even on? On the left side, all of Dad's brothers and sisters. Y'all can go ahead and scoot to as close as you can in. Oh, yeah. I'm going to start
Does anyone else? Does anyone else need any? Think Dad would be happy with this?
I know he would have loved the bagpipes. This time, if I could ask, if I could ask y'all to please rise. coming, you can be seated now.
If the microphone works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
We're going to continue anyway.
First, I want to thank everyone for being here. I noticed that this is our family, each and every one of you. You're a part of our lives, and we're proud to have you here. This is a time for joy. It's also going to be a time for laughter, because we know who my father was. It's going to be a time to grieve. Today we're going to share in that together.
Let's pray. Gracious God, we come before you today to remember the life and legacy of Stephen Evans. We thank you, God, for the lives he was able to touch and change from his time in the military and as a police officer. We know that his life has forever changed many people, and for that we thank you, God. We pray that as we lay to rest Stephen, that you comfort all those who gather here. That as we honor and remember Stephen, that you pour out your peace that passes all understanding. For we grieve, not like those without hope. We thank you, Lord Jesus, that you are here with us now and will help us through this time of loss and grief. Lastly, we ask, God, that you help us as we remember the life of Stephen, that we find ways to continue his legacy of helping others in our own way. We pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
And if this thing keeps cutting out, I'm just going to come talk to you.
Can y'all hear okay? Yeah.
Who said I sound like my dad? My family members that are here today, some have traveled from far away. My Uncle Rex, his wife Annie, Terry Ruth, my Uncle Rick, Uncle Mark, and Sandy. Bill Wood, Boyer family, my wife's mother and father are here. Carol's back there. Gary Zimmerman, the family, Susan, our stepmother. We are overwhelmed on this day, as I know many of you are as well. I'm going to read my father's obituary. I tried to write something. I tried to create something. I couldn't surpass the obituary, so I'm just going to read it. Stephen Douglas Evans peacefully joined the Lord on August 13th of this year. I want it known that at that time, Susan, my stepmother, Elena, my sister, were with him. He was not alone. I saw him a few days before. He knew who I was. We visited. He was born in Coffeyville, Kansas, to James Evans and Eleanor on August 31st, 1948. Stephen was the beloved brother of Mike, Rick, Pat, Sandy, Karen, Rex, Mark, Scott, Terry, and David. The Evans family moved to Venice, California when Steve was a child. Steve married Janice Heaton in October of 1966. He joined the United States Army in 1967, and his life took him around the world as he navigated the challenges and rewards of military service. He was stationed in Germany in the 1960s, which is where I was born, and again in the 1980s, where I got to be a teenager and enjoy Europe again. My father served in the military police. He also was a truck driver, leading up to him becoming an instructor in the transportation department and training young soldiers about handling the vehicles. He was also assigned to Fort Hood to the 501st and 545th MP companies. He was an officer with the Harker Heights Police Department in 1975. Many people, if you look around on some of these cards, you'll see there's a picture somewhere on one of these where Dad looks like he's whacked out on drugs or something. That's when they had him doing the undercover thing, so that's why he gets. And that's also when my mother almost shot him because he came home late one night and she didn't recognize him. So, he also later in the 1980s he became the officer in charge of civil police liaison at Fort Hood, working with all the Central Texas and departments in the area, coordinating with them. He also did a tour in Korea as an aviation first sergeant. He retired after 23 years of service. Steve Evans made many lifelong friends, military and law enforcement community, and cherished these relationships as he spoke of them often. Steve created several small businesses, including his billboards, his striping, parking lot striping, his Nolanville storage facility. Then there's the skating rinks. We had Texas Skateland out here at Harker Heights was the first one, then Playland in Austin, then Playland in Las Vegas, and then we had the post skating rink at Ramstein in Germany, and then of course Skate World in Coppers Cove for 18 years. He also then took over the skating rink in Killeen on Elms Road and completely made that look like brand new. And that was the last skating rink that he was managing at that time. He extended his love and support to the countless children and families who frequented the skating rinks, offering guidance, encouragement that left a lasting impact. During his life, he made countless contributions to the community around him, including donating to the orphanages in Germany, creation of the food pantry right here in Nolanville. During his life as a soldier, police officer, business leader, Steve was credited with saving many lives and was awarded for his bravery and dedication. Steve's life is a tapestry woven with family, adventure, and unwavering devotion to his loved ones. Steve was known for his strong work ethic, focus, and loyalty. As for work ethic, I don't know too many people that could keep up with him. Steve was committed to the well-being of his family and friends, while always seeking to express his love and enhance their lives. Steve will forever remain in their hearts to all those who have the privilege of knowing him. A lot of what I have to say, a lot of what I want to say, I made that list. We would be here all day. That's how many awards, that's how many saves, that's how many good friendships, that's how much was there. I spent more time crossing things out than trying to add, just to make this work. At this time, I would like you to join us in Amazing Grace, which will be led by our chaplain.
I'm going to start off with the Lord's Prayer, and then we'll go into singing Amazing Grace. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Now we'll sing Amazing Grace together. It should be the first, second, and fifth verse. You should find that within your bulletin. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious first believed, when we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
Hello. The microphone worked for me. It's so good to see everybody. Hello. I'm going to be the less informal one because that's just my way and that's what it's going to be. So it's so good to see everybody. I'm excited for today. We've been planning this for so long since everything had happened. Everybody traveling and coming out here. Dad would be so excited to see. He's like, yes, my day's here. I'm so ready. He has talked about today many, many, many times. You guys have heard him. So I'm going to go ahead and just go into a little medley of little stories and things that were kind of fun and poignant about Dad. Everybody know he was a big prankster. He would joke around. Nobody knows that more than his brothers and sisters. But we got to see some of that firsthand. He was such a funny guy, comical, and he would just make you laugh, especially when you kids were having a bad day or he was having a bad day. He was the one that was going to change the air if he could. I do remember, Dad would, just surprise you and do off-the-wall things, but he always made it a point to let you know that he was aware of you, that the details of you, he would just kind of let you know that you weren't forgotten about. I think with skating rinks and everything, with military, police officers, and everybody he came in contact with, he would make you feel like he wasn't going to forget you. Like, when you cross paths with him, and it was meant to be, you were going to be that person for him there at that time. And so I really am just happy that my dad was the kind of man that he was, with that giving spirit. He had such an optimism early on when he was a kid. All his brothers and sisters, they know all this more than I would, but he just had a drive in him. He was always a pusher. He would get out there and do things, but he really did try to help those that were less fortunate because, he could understand what that was like. And I think when you're in suffering and you actually endure things, you're able to help the next person because you can really relate to that. And I think God really honored Dad's giving heart and his nature in that regard, because many times he crossed paths with people that were just so desolate. They did not have any hope. They were on the verge of breakdowns. Families were going to break apart. He was helping parents parent their kids. He was helping the kids understand the parents. There's so many people that he came in contact with, but these were things that he was the man of the hour at those times. I told him when, leaving last year, we'd be driving in my truck, and he'd be in the passenger seat of my truck, and I'd be like, Dad, it was supposed to be. You were going to cross paths with these people, and you were the man for the hour at those times. And I just feel like God really was bringing you through a lot of things and struggles, and he knew that you were going to carry on and do God's word in that regard. So I'm just proud of Dad for just the character that he had and the way that what he stood for. He had a lot of honor. He had a lot of integrity. He was very loyal, and he was kind of rigid on some things. I was like, Dad, can you calm down a little bit on that? It's not that bad. However you guys want. I'm like, it's just not that serious, Dad. It's okay. But most oftentimes, you guys can remember just when you look at a guy and you look at all the character and all the traits that would make up someone that you would be happy to be around and be friends with forever, it would be my dad. And looking at brothers and sisters, it's funny because I was telling my aunts and my Susan, and I was like, you're looking at the brothers and sisters, but you're seeing Dad. It's, that's the cool thing about having a lot of brothers and sisters, because you hear the voices, you see, it's like, he's still here, he's still around. I mean, you can look at my brother, and it's like, hello, it's my dad. I gotta look away because it looks like his. It's like that. That's the cool part about family. That's awesome. When you can have that. And so it's like, right now we've lost Dad, but I just don't feel like I lost him. And you're gonna say, oh, you're in denial, poor girl. Oh, no. Here's how it goes. I really honestly feel like he's been with me the whole time. He's not left me. He's not that far from me. And so I have an optimistic side about how I view it, and I just feel like he used to rescue people. It was almost like he was the man for the job to come in and swoop you up, and it made you feel good and be like, okay, what do you need? Okay, let me see what I can do. He was always the guy to come help you out of trouble. He was always the guy you called and, hey, Dad, I'm broke down. Hey, Dad, I got caught doing something I shouldn't have been doing, or, whatever. He was coming out to help jack up your car, put a tire on it. He was the one coming out, to do what he could do, offer you money if you needed, whatever. He was going to be that guy. And so for that, I'm just really proud of what all he was able to do and just the kind of man that he truly was. I will say that he had, as far as details go, with my mom, I know when they were little, or when they were 14, Dad would bring Mom a Coke. And he would bring a Coke for all the sisters, or he'd bring a drink for all her sisters. He didn't forget about you. It was like he would bring you with you, he was going to bring you and something for them. And he was just that kind of a giver. And that nature was passed on to me and Dennis. We've kind of been that way. And I will say that it's been eye-opening because, like I said, I still see him around, and I'm in the truck I'm driving, and all of this, and this is all normal, which you would feel when this happens, but, like, I dream about him a lot. I woke up, I was late, I'm going to be late for work, and my room was pitch black, and I heard, Alina. And it was his voice, and I woke up and I said, like I'm going to have a conversation with him. And it was just, he has not left, he's been super close, and for me, I'm just grateful that, I have his DNA. And, but I'm also grateful too because Dad actually was a father to many that didn't feel like they had a dad. In the skating rinks, a lot of the kids felt like he was kind of like their dad, and he would counsel them and he would take care of them, and they never forgot that. And again, like with Susan and her family, and it's Emily and Jalen and. Sarah. It's, Dad he never mentioned, it was always when he met someone and he needed to help you and you were just family. That was the end of it. And so for us, it was like, Dad had daughters, Dad had sons. I can't even, the many kids at the rink. I mean, Dad kind of adopted everybody. And he kind of just said, come here, and just brought it all under his wing. But that was kind of the cool part about Dad. And, I'm just happy that we were able to kind of carry on that legacy and just be that kind of way of giving towards people and carry that on. What was the story I was going to tell?
Which one?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, this is Jesse. Okay, so I'm at the table, and I'm 17. My mom is sitting there. We're just having lunch. It's like about 1 PM. And my dad comes in the door, and he's like, you're never going to guess what I just got. I just got the deal of a lifetime. And I said, what'd you get? And he says, you got to guess. And I said, did you buy another lawnmower, screwdrivers, hammers? I don't know. And, because he's always picking up stuff. And he goes to the flea markets, and he just picks up, and he's grabbing and bringing stuff home, and his truck's loaded, the Ranger's outloaded, and he's like, no, I bought all of our graves. All of them. I got 13 or 14 plots. And I looked at my mom, and she looked at me, and she said, are you for real? And I was like, yeah, this is not a normal family, I don't think. But it was funny because, at the time, you're not thinking what that was. I mean, he scored a big deal. He had a good break on the money. He's like, I got it. Now we all have a place to be, and one, and this is my dad, and just kind of narrating it. And he's like, look, I got pictures, like I mapped out. And at the time, you just don't think of the relevance of what that's going to be. But Dad was always a planner, and he didn't want us to have to worry in the future. And I guess for that, you really are grateful to know that he would actually go that extra mile just to take that time and to be able to lift that off of you. And then to help so many people that didn't have a place to be or whatever. Dad was kind of just that way and wanted to have, here we go, ours. And they would come out, and Mom was like, this is so weird. And I was like, I know. And then Dad's like, but look how nice it is in the view. And all, And so, anyways, I remember that, and I thought it was kind of funny. But 17 sitting at a table was like, your dad's coming in, hey, I just bought whatever. No, I bought all of our grapes, and we're all still alive. Yay, I'm 17, we're all young. Great. But now it's like, here we go. So, that was kind of a cute little story. What other ones? My mind is going only because I've been awake for a while, but I'm just really excited and happy to know that this day is here because we've been planning for it, but also I know that this day was so relevant and important to him because he always talked about his day, and the fact that it is Veterans Day. I told my brother, so I was like, this could not be more Dad. I mean, the fact that we had to push the day out, it didn't matter. It landed on Veterans Day. I think my dad would be so excited to be buried on Veterans Day. So, sorry to have to drag it out a little bit, but I think it was such a nice day for him to be buried on. So, I will say that on the end of the chapter with him, this last year and a half, we were so grateful to have him closer to us. He moved down. He was, in close proximity. We were with him every day. I quit my job at the time, and I became his 24-hour caregiver at the time. So I was able to get really close with him. I have a lot of video and footage. Like I said, if we were inside and we had a TV monitor and things were going, I would have probably had some footage of him dancing in our apartment because he's dancing to Maggie May. He's all over the place and he's jamming. He's dancing down the halls. He knows everything. He's got the moves, all of it. And this was just last year. And I mean, again, with how things were, the music really just kind of lit him up. That was it. All the core memories for him. It was never gone. He was just moving around. He'd be waving at me in the mirror, and I'm getting ready, and the music is loud. I mean, you got neighbors. He don't care. It was fine, but that was just Dad. So it was nice to see these moments where Dad could interact with the grandkids, interact with everybody close in proximity. That we were just grateful to have him that close. And I will say in the very ending moments of his life, most people would be, it's such a heavy, it is, but for me, I will say that it was probably one of the best experiences you could have because everything he had asked for, we made sure he got. And I mean, we made sure he got. Susan, we were not hesitating, we were fighting like, he needs to have this, and that's it. There's no compromise, we want this, that's it. This is what he's asked for. And so with him, we got music playing all the time. He was jamming. He was hearing it. I had him dancing around me and all those little memories and stuff. But this was towards the very end of it. And so in those last moments, it was very peaceful and tranquil. It was it was me doing a lot of the talking because Susan wasn't talking too much because we were kind of crying back and forth. But yeah, I'm like coaching him, talking to Dad. But the music was going, and he was I could just see the peacefulness fall on him as he was listening to one of his favorite songs. And he passed in those moments. And in those moments, like I said, it was just me and Susan there. But, I'm only going through this because some people wonder what it was like. And it was the coolest thing. After he passed, immediately, probably within seconds, Susan will tell you, I was like, yes! Because I knew that he'd been free. I knew God had just rescued him. And I knew it was like, yes, he was listening to his music. He had us around. He could hear us talking. He had phone conversations earlier in the day with his family, with the brothers and sisters, people on the phone. He could hear them in his ears. But it was just like the best it could be. So for me, I was just glad I was able to be there. Emily was going to be there that day. And he loved Emily, he loved Sarah, loved Jay. Jalen became his little world.
But it was as good as it could possibly be. So for that, we're just grateful that we were able to have him all this time, and it was such a lovely experience to be able to bring him closer this year and be able to have him, as long as we did. So I'm gonna go and pass it on now, but thank you so much for being here, and we just stay in that state of gratefulness because really. We're just glad we had him as long as we did. Because 70-something years old, hey, I'm all right with that. But, all right, love you guys.
That's not going to work. Mr. Microphone over there. Being that today's Veterans Day, we are definitely going to recognize that. If my father was here, and this was his show to put on, there would be even more, especially for that day. We have law enforcement, prior military, those in service now, present on Veterans Day. Just something I want to read to you in reference to that. Once upon a time when you sign that contract, when you take that oath, you're presenting a blank check to our nation to be cashed at any time. Some of us came back, some of us didn't. You can see throughout this place here, and feel free to walk around on your own. This is sacred land around us. But some of those checks have been cashed. Not every warrior got to come home and live a full life. In regards to military and law enforcement, Sheriff of Lampass is here, Jesse. I've heard stories of him and his brother since I was that big. I've only got to meet him recently, in person. They're legends. I heard the story, okay? I heard it. Dad talked about them all. But the thing my father spoke of the most was how much his family, his friends, meant to him. They had value. He could not just overlook somebody and walk past him. He didn't have it in him. And I would love to sit here. People say I sound like him, I look like him. I got to tell you, I'm not like him. I've tried, but I'm a little bit rougher around the edges, I guess, like people say. But military and law enforcement friendships, they're not built on convenience. They're built on loyalty and trust. They're built on your actions in the moment. Steve Evans was always about something bigger than himself. He was a man of sacrifice. And sacrifice is the greatest thing as human beings we will ever do for one another. The Bible says in Matthew 5:9, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God." And in John 15:13, "Greater love than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends." My father led a nice, long, wonderful life. He was blessed with that, as we were. But there were so many times that I saw him sacrifice. I tell stories from my childhood. I tell stories of places. People look at me like I'm crazy. My family's here. In Austin, Texas in the 70s, they were going to kill us. Does that sound crazy? Of course it does. Yet, lying in wait to kill me and my father, they were there. But guess who else was there? law enforcement. Luckily, somebody dropped a dime. So instead of us, it was them jumping the fences, taking shotgun blast as they went over the tops of the fences. Us. There's so many of those stories. We talk about them amongst ourselves like it's just Tuesday. Yet I get around other people, I can't even talk because some of these things are so outlandish. Who the hell would believe it?
Yeah.
You know? And it was a life of excitement, a life of adventure. I was always happy, always proud, except for when I hated my dad through those early years. You know those years, you know, when parents don't know anything. Then I went out in the world, I got exposed, and my father was my friend. My father was my confidant. I could come to him with anything, and I could usually pretty much trust his judgment on what he was going to say. As a kid, I remember the military police hanging out at the house. I remember them getting the attack dogs out, bringing them into our front yard in the housing area and doing training so everybody in the neighborhood could watch the dogs eat people. That was just something to do. And then Dad would let me feed the dog King, who was a giant. He was that big, and I was allowed to feed him through the glass bologna while he's trying to kill me. You
Wait.
know?
Hold on, I'm with you. I just remember the story. And then there's like 5 or 6 fake dummies in fatigues stacked in the living room. I come out at 3 in the morning. They're all bloodied up. They're actual look like guys, right? And they're all stacked. And Dad had to do a
First aid medic training.
and all the helicopters had crashed, and he had to take all these things out there to place them for training. And I'm like, and I'm screaming, and he's like, "It's okay, it's just fake. They're not real. They're not real." But they're all stacked, and I mean, it was like a pile of people. And he's like, "No, no, no." And I was like, "I'm going back to you're weird. I'm going back to bed." But I remember that. There you go. So there's another story.
That's just Thursday.
Yeah.
We traveled the world, Europe. We were always a family. We were always involved. We were always concerned and cared for our distant family members as we traveled the world. They were never far from our thoughts. I'm sorry, Dad, for all the pain in the butt I was in those teenage years, but that's just how it goes. I had no better friend as I got older. My father wore many hats, and he was always creative. He could not sit still. He worked harder and longer than anyone I've ever met. For me as his son, I say, "I love you, Dad." For me as his friend, I say, "Thank you." For me as a fellow police officer, I say, "We'll take the watch from here." For me as a fellow soldier, I say, "At ease." Give me 1 second here. I'm kind of trapped in my own thoughts here. At this time, we're going to invite others to speak. Anyone who would like to come up and say anything, please feel free. I also want to advise, once we get to the end, we are going to take the urn down and bury it. Because of the mud and the terrain here, we decided to keep everything pretty much up here. But everyone is welcome that does want to do that towards the end, obviously. So feel free if you want to be a part of that. And at this time, I would like to invite Sheriff Jesse Ramos to speak.
Well, good morning. I'm not going to use that because it bothers me more than it probably does you to go back and forth. But I'm Jess Ramos. I'm the Sheriff of Lampasas County, and Steve and I have been friends for a long time. I first want to clear the air. I think Steve's love for me, my brother, and my other brother, 3 of us that retired state police, the love that he had for us, I'm humbled. I'm extremely humbled. He made us bigger than we were. We were not legends. It's who we were to Steve. And you know what? If he goes to our heavens thinking that, I'm all good for it. So Dennis and Lena, y'all done an excellent job here in putting this together. I know we've been talking back and forth, and I thank you for memorializing your dad and loving him the way you have. So many times there's funerals that don't, and memorials that don't happen like this, and I'm very grateful because he is a very, very dear friend to me. Susan, I know you were there forever, and thank you so much for loving him, and thank you for making me part of him when his illness had struck him. Emily, thank you as much. And that little baby, I know he loved her, he talked about her all the time. So I learned from his obituary that he was one of 11. And maybe that's why we just jived, he and I, because we're a family of 10. There's 5 boys and 5 girls. And so we always had that, you know, it's not what you have, it's who you are that matters to him. And I'll explain that. I've been asked to kind of talk about his law enforcement experience and our relationship, but it's hard to talk about law enforcement when he was the friend that he was to me. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the friendship that we had, it just overrode everything that we were as cops. So, I met Steve probably in 1989 when I first came to Copper Skull as a highway patrolman. My twin brother Joe here was a highway patrolman there in Killeen. My brother John was also a highway patrolman there in Killeen. And Steve, right away, being that he was the man in charge to the police civil liaison on Fort Hood, boy, he was our right pocket. Everything we needed out of Fort Hood, we pick up the phone, call Steve, and Steve would make it happen. If we had, sometimes soldiers wouldn't pay their tickets, so there's warrants and stuff like that. We'd say, Steve, we got some warrants on so-and-so, and he says, you be here at 3 o'clock, I'll have them here for you. It was like clockwork. They were there. So he made our job super easy. Steve would also ride with us, and always wanted to ride with us. Steve had a genuine love and respect for law enforcement, unmatched to anybody else in the way he treated us. Not just us. I'm talking DPS, the Highway Patrol. I'm talking about Killeen PD. I'm talking about Bill County Sheriff's Office. I'm talking anybody that wore a badge. He was there for them. Now, his job was very important on Fort Hood, but you would never know he held that rank, that E9. You never knew he was that kind of a guy, because he was just one of us. And that's what I loved about him so much. Now, we promoted and left the area, and I came back to Lampasas in 2002, and Steve and I reunited. I came back there as a Texas Ranger, and Steve was very proud of that. He was very, very proud of that. And he always talked to me. And I'll never forget what he'd tell me in the sense that he'd say, hey Jess, I know you're out there on these crime scenes. I know you're out there, you're chasing the bad guy and this, that. And I know a lot of times, you know, other investigators will leave and you're out there by yourself. You know, you need somebody watching your back. I said, Steve, I'm okay. The crime's over, nothing for me to worry. No, brother, you need somebody there with you, he'd say. You need somebody to hold that dummy end of that tape when you're taking measurements for your crime scene. Let me hold the dummy end. And he meant it. That was what was so genuine, is that he meant it. He would call me all the time. He'd pick up the newspaper, hear it on the radio, and he said, hey, you need help? I'm there for you. Whatever. I was always hearing from Steve. So, you know, that's just not a friend. That's somebody that's willing to get out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and be out there with me for as long as I need to be. You know, in 2016, I decided to be appointed as a sheriff. The sheriff that was there wanted out, and the commissioners appointed me as a sheriff. Oh boy, you would think I had just won the lottery or something. Steve was on me. I used to say, hey, let me be a campaign manager. I said, it's my job for me to have. No, let me help you. Okay, Steve. I wasn't going to say no, but I think he bought like 200 newspapers. And my announcement He cut them all out, he laminated them, and was walking around town giving them, like I was campaigning. I'm like, this man. But that's how proud he was. And he was so proud of the Ramos clan. My brother John couldn't be here, but he always talked about us. But he handed these things out, and then he went off and he made me some beautiful banners that I even have one in my vehicle, and I use it for later on, just for meet and greets. Well, that all came out of his pocket. He didn't need to do that for me, but he done it. And he made sure that whatever event that I was hosting or whatever, he was there. He was there. And like I tell him, I don't need a campaign manager. My first 2 terms, I didn't have an opponent. But he wanted to be my campaign manager. And I'm like, nobody has signed up to run against me. I don't really need one, but that is the kind of friend he was. So he was there forever. A faithful friend. So faithful that at one time, or probably several times, he made me feel guilty. In the sense that about 7 o'clock, 7:30, once a week, maybe every 2 weeks, he'd ring my doorbell. And I'd go to the door and he goes, "Hey, Jess, how's it going?" And I said, "I'm fine, come on in." He goes, "Oh, well, I just come by to talk to you for about 5 minutes." Thinking he had something needed help or something like that. And I said, "Come on, sit down. Can I get you something to drink?" No. I just come down just to lay eyes on you, see how you're doing. And I'm thinking, well, I'm doing fine. One time, a couple of times, I might have said, "Steve, you can pick up the phone." He goes, "No, that's not who I am. I gotta lay eyes on you. I gotta know who you are. I gotta know how you're doing right then and there." Wow. I remember telling him several times, I wish I could be that kind of friend to you that you are to me. Because the word, "I'm okay," does not matter. If you ask, "Hey, how are you doing?" "I'm okay." That doesn't matter. He's gonna ring that doorbell and see how you're doing. He needs to see it. That's the kind of friend he was. And, while I was there at the sheriff's office when COVID hit, he was so worried for me, worried for my family, worried for my staff, worried for the inmates, that we had to evaluate the people before they came to jail, and we had to do the temperature and do the blood pressure and do all that before we would take them in, make sure that they weren't, or at least not make sure, we would know, but contagious. Well, Steve made it a point to go out and buy a podium for the sheriff's office to where we could put it outside in the salad court before they even came into the secured area. He wanted them to do that. Now that was his own doing, and he made me think that way. Like, you know what? He's on to something. Before we get him in there, let's go on ahead and get him evaluated. And to this very day, that podium sits out there, and that's what we use. So, a man of vision. He also would always had ideas on defensive tactics for women. He wanted to put on classes for defensive tactics for women. The holidays drove him crazy because he knew that women would be shopping and their purses would be, and he'd always say, "Jess, we need to do something. We need to put on classes about this." Always that. And then the kids, endless love for the kids. With the skating rinks and everything that he done, he was just unbelievable on all that he done. Yes, he was that counselor. He was that father to many that didn't have one. And we'd sit and we'd talk about it, and I could tell it was a painful, penetrating hurt in his heart when he talked about these kids and the stories that he'd hear. So I tell you this, that Steve was just not a police officer, a patriot, a warrior at heart for this country. He was a friend like no other, and he was that to me. And I'm going to miss the guy. I'm going to miss him a lot. He was a really, really good friend. It's hard to believe that he's gone. I look at these pictures, it's almost like I want to talk to him. And, just say, "Hey, I need some help now, holding that dummy hand, But he's not here. He's not here. And actually, truly, he's in a better place. We really wouldn't want him here, knowing what he's gone through. Like you said, he's been rescued. He's been rescued, and he's somewhere else now. And I thank our good Lord for laying hands on him and healing him from all that he's been going through, all that he went through. So, in closing, I just want to say I'm grateful for lending your dad to me as a friend. Brothers and sisters that made the trip out here, thank you so much. I'm sure you guys are the same way, and thank you for raising him up with that kind of love and that kind of energy, the energy that he had. You know, everybody talks about Donald Trump and his energy. Well, this guy was worse than Donald Trump.
Yeah, he did.
He had energy, and I just want to say I'll close there, and thank you again, and God bless you, buddy. We love you.
Anybody else that would like to come up and say a few words?
I just want to say, no, Steve wasn't my biological father. He never treated us as anything less. He was there. He was the drop and run guy. If you needed something, if I was scared in a situation, if my car wouldn't start, no matter what, no matter where I was, it was never, well, what happened? What did you do? It was, where are you? I'm coming. I'm on my way. He was there for me. He was there for my baby. My baby was his world, the end of it all. But he was wonderful. You know, he did his skate world. My best friend was always with us. It was whatever you want behind the snack bar, go get it. Sit down, count my money for me, make sure all the ones are facing the right way. There's no, folded ends or anything. And then once I got older, go help out behind the snack bar. Then we'd go eat after Skate World closed. We'd have our responsibilities cleaning up, and then we'd go eat. But I can't remember a band practice, a band, anything that he wasn't there for myself and my best friend with bouquets of roses for each of us, because she didn't have the best family either. So he would, be there to support both of us. Loved her like his own as well. He was there throughout nursing school. I needed nursing books, and he said, here, take this money and just pay me back $20 a month. And I did that a couple of months, and he said, I just wanted to make sure you were good for your word. He said, this isn't a handout, it's a hand up. Do what you need to do, get through schooling, be the mom you need to be for your little girl, and make sure no matter what comes in life, whether you have a partner or you don't, that you're capable of taking care of you and yours. And he was there at my nursing graduation. Steve has just been there. And there are still times where I just want to call him and say, hey, I need help with this, or would you be able to fix that? And I can't, and that's life, but I just always appreciated that he was there and that I had that in my life at some point. Peanut butter sandwiches. Peanut butter sandwiches. Yeah, but he would pack lunches for my best friend and I at school and bring, it was a full-on cooler. He would bring to school once a week. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, goldfish, drinks, the whole 9 yards. And he was so proud to be able to do that for us, so. He was a good guy.
I'll say a few words. I'm Joe Ramos. When my brother Jesse called me and said, hey, Steve died, I live up in Dallas, and he said, would you like to come to his service? How we were really good friends with him, and what he thought of us and all. I said, absolutely, I'll be there. Because Steve is that kind of guy that'll make you drive and fly to be here for him, because he was that kind of guy that would drive and fly to go see you. I think if Steve were here, he would say this: hey, it's good to see you. Then he would say, and it's good to be seen. So many times as friends, we see each other, but we also need to be seen. And when he showed up at my brother's doorsteps every morning, or not every morning, but from time to time and knocked the door, he was saying, it's good to see you, but it's also good to be seen. So if Steve were here, he would share that with us. Don't lose the most important thing in this whole world. It's not your education, it's not your job. It's not what you do. It's relationships. relationships with your God, relationships with your spouses, with your children, with your brothers and sisters, with your friends. If there was one word that could sum him up, it would be, he's a loving relationship. May God bless his soul. May he rest in peace. And all of the souls of the faithful departed that lie here in this place, we lift them up to the Lord to be with Steve. God bless you all. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Christina. I was one of the many skate world kids. I was a little different though. He saw me hanging out with one leg and was like, I'm gonna put a skate on her. And he did. And man, he kind of taught me I could do anything I wanted. And he was always there for me. And then progressed, he taught me with two legs how to roller skate. And I left the state for a long time, but as soon as I was back, he was, "You're here! Hello!" He took me to lunch, gave me a beautiful picture, which I forgot, of just pictures of skating and him and I. He was a major positive influence in my life. I didn't have the best home life, and he was there. He took me to surgeries, appointments, bought me my first pet. Went to 3 different pet stores to look for a tortoise because I was like 9 years old and I wanted a Timmy the tortoise. And he goes, "How about a bird?" So that's how I got Mikey, my first bird. And he was one of a kind. And I was very thankful to have him in my life. I just wanted to share that.
Other service, I did a disservice to that crowd by not looking. So if you intend on speaking, wave your hands, jump up and down. I'll be looking because I kind of screwed it up on hers because I moved on and left people like, I was trying to get up, but, you know.
I'm Rosa Sanders. I'm the wife of my husband, Richard Sanders. He worked with me for several years. He was the DJ. I'm from Mexico, so excuse my accent.
You're doing fine. You're fine.
My husband was listening to deploy at one time, and my husband main thing was for me to get my citizenship. So my husband will deploy the day before I had to go to Austin to get my fingerprints. And my husband was worried, immigration don't understand, you got heavy downs. So Steve offered my husband, I said, I take Rosa to Austin to get her fingerprints. And he did. This is a big one over here. When he found out that my husband has cirrhosis of the liver and he needed a liver, he came to the house and he said, I give you the liver. That's how he was. And that's all I want to tell you. He was a wonderful man and he did a lot of good things for us. But the two things are, he wanted to give my husband his liver. I mean, his life for my husband. And I hope he see what we see over here, and one day he sent him a liver. Thank you.
I'm Isla. I just wanted to say a few words. Steve and Janice and Susan has all been good to me. I worked for Steve for many years at the Skate World, and anytime I needed help with anything, he was right there to help me. Or he'd say, "Are you doing all right, Isla?" And anytime he asked for help, I was always there to help him. So he was a good person and a good boss, and he was everybody's friend. He always treated us with respect, and anytime I'd need something I wouldn't even have to ask, he'd be right there and said, you sure here, you pay me back whenever, or he'll just give it to you. So I just want to say he was a good person, and he was there for a lot of people. And it was an honor to work for him and be there for him. And one time my daughter, I was at the store and she was looking to fix up an old bike. And we saw Steve there and he said, "Come with me, Amber." And he said, "Sit on this bike." And he said, "How does it feel?" And then the next thing you know, Steve's up there paying for it and bought her a brand new bike just out of the goodness of his heart. And that was the kind of person Steve was. He didn't ask for anything in return. He just gave from his heart. And we're all going to miss him. Thank you, Dennis.
I'm not going to go up there. It's just a couple of little short things. This is my niece, my sister-in-law. And Steve was a good friend. He was always there for our family. Two things that happened. My son and his wife had their 4 kids in a Polaris and fell down a mountain in Colorado. And they were all helicoptered out, and it was horrible. And he came over and gave Johnny $1,000 in cash, and he says, "This is for your expenses to go get your family back home, when they're healed." He did that. It a cute little thing. We always took the little kids, to go to the park, and they were right across the street from the apartments. And I said, "Hey, Steve, why don't you come and we'll get some bread and feed the ducks, give Susan a little bit of a break." So I ended up with about 8 or 10 kids, and we were all on scooters and everything. And he said, "Let's all go get ice cream." And he, bought all the kids ice cream cones. And I just think that, that was the kind of guy he was.
My name is Terry. Steve was my brother. I was the 10th of 11 kids. And I didn't know Steve very well growing up because I was so young. But the story I remember about Steve, Rick, and Mike. We lived by the beach, and we had darts in our yard, our side yard. There was only one way to get in and one way to get out. So I needed to get something across the yard. And I was probably about 5 or 6. And my mom and dad was in the house and everybody, they didn't live with us, they just were there all the time. And Rick and Mike and Steve were throwing darts, and I wanted to go, and Steve said, "Okay, we're gonna stop." So he let me go. Well, I have to go back. And Steve then says, "Go ahead, we'll wait. And the 3 of them threw darts at me as I'm going across. Steve's dart stuck me right here. And to me, it didn't hurt very badly, but I had to do the dramatic scene. And I ran in the house crying, and my dad came out, and everybody was gone because they didn't want to get in trouble. But Steve and I didn't really connect until I was a lot older, and he was a lot older. We came here and visited quite a bit from California, stayed with Steve and Rex and them, and he was overseas in Germany or somewhere. Janice was they were living here in Saline, and he sent me a card with pictures of him and everything that was going on overseas. And I was very touched because we weren't that close. Like I said, he was way out there. So yeah, I just wanted to share that story.
In case you don't know it about my father, his brothers and sisters, who was it that crawled in the bathtub trying to sleep at the party and somebody threw darts over the shower curtain? Who was that? I think that was, I think Rick got some holes in him from that. Rubber snakes. Smoke bombs. Back in the 70s, you could get access to military. Yes, soldiers did carry smoke bombs around.
And it was Steve's idea to tie Mike's feet to the back of a tricycle and shove him down. Shove him down the mountain.
these two guys, I don't know if they remember me, but I remember them when I first saw them in their trooper uniforms. You're twins.
Yes, sir.
I don't know how many of you knew that. They kind of look alike, don't they? To have known them and the fact that they knew Steve probably as well as I knew him, it's like a family. You know, I look out over y'all and the family is big, and I appreciate each and every one of you being a part of it. I know Steve did. I was privileged to work with Steve back in the early 70s there at Harker Heights. He came out and rode with me quite often. And we became so close, you know. To tell you, the sides that I saw to Steve, I think every one of you have probably seen also. The one that I liked second best was his sense of humor. A little bit of ornery-ness, but more love than anything. That was number one that I saw in him. When I first met him, he came out to ride as reserve officer. He says, well, he interrogated me. And I could tell he had worked with military CID and was military man. In fact, he still was back then. But he questioned me like I'd done something wrong. And he wanted to know how long I've been cop, what my favorite foods were, favorite color. I mean, he went on and on and on. I thought, this is good. But you had to love him because he did it so kindly. We rode together. Back then, I seriously. Unusual, he wasn't there. So I drove on looking around, went down the skating rink, see if I could find him. I couldn't find him. Little did I know, he and another officer had taken an item and put it on top of the flagpole, and they called me over the radio, and they said, there's something on top of the flagpole, we're not sure what it is, but we looked into it. We just got a call, and I thought, this is strange. But I drove up BD, I looked up the flagpole, I could see something, but I didn't know what it was. So I took down the rope, and here came a bunch of bananas with a little sign on it saying, have a happy lunch. And I thought, that was Steve. He had a sense of humor. So I thought, I got to get even with him. So one night we were riding, we came to this car that was in Harker Heights city limits, right there next to the Killeen city limit sign. You know the sign that says Killeen has the population number on it. I was halfway in the road and walked up to the car, took the flashlight, looked in there, and I recognized the guy. He was the town drunk, about 6'4". And anytime you woke him up when he was drunk, you had to fight him to take him to jail. And I thought, well, I don't want to get into it tonight, especially with Steve. I didn't want either one of us getting hurt, but I knew there was going to be a fight. So I told Steve, I said, look, this is the brother of a friend of mine who is a Killeen officer working as a cop in Killeen. I need to call him, but I'm going to need your help. He said, yeah, anything. I mean, he was so eager to help. I said, we're going to take the car and we're going to push it in to the Killeen city limits. And to call his brother, it wasn't his brother, but I let Steve believe it was. I'm going to call his brother and tell him, your brother's here, he's drunk, he's parked halfway on the road, halfway off, and he's going to need your help. So Steve thought he was doing the best thing. He got out, he was helping me push that car into the Killeen city limits. We put the emergency brake on, the car was still running, but I turned it off. because I didn't want Don, who was the drunk at that time, getting awake and angry and just wanted to stay asleep. So we turned the car off, pushed it into the clean city limits. We got back in my car and we went on a side road, and I called Colleen over the radio and said, "You've got a suspicious vehicle, blah, blah, blah," went through it. And he said, "We're not going to help him?" I said, "No." I said, "We're going to watch. See how his brother treats him." And the guy that came, I worked with when I was in the military. Both of us, 256 MP company, worked together. And Steve was right down the road from us. And anyway, he came, and I told Steve, I said, "There's going to be a fight. It's inevitable." And he goes, "Well, I always like to see a good fight." Next thing I know, there's 2 of the squad cars coming. I mean, it was a fight. And Steve and I, we were sharing binoculars watching it. And we were both laughing so hard that they finally got him cuffed and hauled off. And we went on back on our rounds, and he said, "Man, that was something." He said, "You got to call him and ask why he treated his brother like he did." So I had to confess to Steve that it wasn't his brother. I was just getting even with you for those bananas up there on the tray. But we had a lot of fun. And Steve, everyone that said something about Steve today is 100% plus correct. I've never met another man like him. And we were as brothers. I'll never forget him. It's mentioned in the Bible. In Proverbs 18:24 says, "A man that hath friends must show himself friendly." That was Steve. And it goes on to say, "And there's a friend that sticketh closer than a brother." That was Steve. I have 5 brothers. Not a one of them is as close to me as Steve was. I loved him dearly. Love his family. Love his friends. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of it. Steve, my brother, I'll see you again in heaven. God bless you all.
Anyone else care to speak at this time?
Hello everyone, my name is Margaret, and for those of you that don't know me, I am Bill Wood's daughter. Steve and Bill were the greatest of friends. I remember going to the skating rink every single weekend to see Steve. One weekend in particular, I remember sitting down to put on my skates, and it was the strangest thing because all of the stories talking about him being a jokester is 100% true.
Put a snake in your skate.
Not quite. And I was sitting there putting on my skates, and I knock over this stuffed bunny that was sitting there, that wasn't sitting there when I sat down. And as I turned to knock over this bunny, it was about the size of my torso. I don't know how it got there. And I turned around, and if you had ever been to the skating rink, he had these picnic tables sitting there. Steve was on all fours underneath one of those picnic tables, accusing me of stealing his friend because I had this stuffed bunny sitting beside me, and me being this young 7-year-old thought I was going to get in trouble with my parents for stealing something. And you could tell that he knew that I was uneasy because I thought I was going to get in trouble, because he responded with, well, if my friend likes you so much, he should be your friend now. And so he just gave me this humongous gray stuffed bunny with this giant yellow bow. And I had that thing for years. It was my favorite stuffed animal. And it was just, he always knew how to make someone laugh and smile. I had no idea what was going on in that situation, and I don't know how he got under the table without me noticing. But
He was slick.
100%. He was and always will be a great man, and my heart goes out to you.
This time, is there anybody else that would like to come forward and speak? Just a little laughter. Bill.
I'll give it a try. That was my daughter, Margaret. I have a lot of stories about Steve, as you know. We first met about 1980 when we were stationed together.
I was that big.
He was
A baby, yeah.
But some of the stories that stand out. One of the photographs that was circulating, Steve in our camouflage with all kinds of strange weapons.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite pictures.
Top floor, yeah.
We were on a sapper team, and our mission was to infiltrate the perimeter of enemy units. And we snuck into this one unit one night. We were detected after being there for a while. So he goes running out through the woods. I'm on the way out after him. But I ran into a bunch of concertina razor wire, and I was tangled up like a pretzel in this razor wire. And I'm screaming for Steve to come help me get out of this wire. And I'm there for like 5 minutes trying to pick myself out of this, and I look up and here he is, rolling on the ground, laughing his butt off when I was tangled up in this wire. And that was Steve. He knew I wasn't hurt, and he just thought it was so hilarious that I was rolled up in this wire. Well, Steve, we came back to the States. I got stationed in Nebraska as an advisor to a reserve unit, and I hated it. I mean, I hated it with passion. And so, talking to Steve on the phone, he said, well, I got this guy. I had to go pick him up downtown. We were stationed together in Germany, and he's from Nebraska, and he wants to take your job. So Steve instituted the exchange assignment for me to change with this guy that he had picked up downtown who'd gotten arrested. He came and took my job in Nebraska, and I moved down here. Steve was best man at our wedding 35 years ago. And when Elizabeth...
She's right here.
I was in Iraq when Elizabeth was born. And I called Steve because I needed a ride from the airport. I managed to get leave to come home. Barbara didn't know I was coming. And so Steve picks me up at the airport in Austin, and he's got this big red bow. And he's got this plan. He says, all right, when we get to your driveway, you get in the back of my truck, and I'll tie this bow around the middle of your waist. And when Barbara comes out, you sit up. And so he calls Barbara, and he says, hey, look, I'm coming by, so, make yourself presentable, put on some makeup. Try to dress nice, because, I'm coming by to see you.
My husband's out of the country.
Right, David?
And so we've got pictures, so we took all the pictures that day, but we pull up in the driveway and I sit up and I got this big red, I'm still in desert camouflage, and got this big red bow tied around my waist. That's how Steve was.
We were honored to be with him. But he was just as honored to be with you. He always was. I never heard him speak an ill word about anybody. Even people I would be like, no way. He could always find a lens to look at a situation, another way to look at things. But I would learn from him and see the ways that he would see things, the ways that he was right, a lot of times. Our family, our friends. When I was a teenager, I was in the back of a 930 Porsche Turbo on the Autobahn that Bill was driving. And that memory is so burned into my brain, it'll go with me to the next life. Because we were flying, and the radio was jamming, and Dad and Bill were in the front seat having a good time. And I was in the back seat just happy to be there. And such a quick moment in my mind. It seemed like it went on forever. But it's those moments that make our lives. And God, Steve Evans have millions of those. So many, he could not even himself, even though he had a memory, he had a good memory. He had a memory like an elephant. He used to say, I can't remember it all. And he wasn't complaining, oh, I'm getting older. It's just been so much, you know? These pictures here. I mean, you look at just the variety. I got an idea. Let's have a skating rink. I got an idea. Let's get a skate car.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick, can you come paint a big boot?
Yeah.
You know? Okay, we're in the parades. You know? I mean, it was just, again, that was just Saturday morning at the Rabbit Fest in Copper's Cove. You know? Whether it was Los Angeles, maybe those stories he would tell from when he was young, being right there when Richie Valens was playing on the boardwalk. You know? I mean, to have those experiences, you know? And so many times he would just, off the cuff, just say something. You'd have to stop him and go, whoa, what, you were where? You did what? Because some things were just so over the top. But he wasn't a liar. He was an adventurer. He made me and my sister's life an adventure. And we'll love him forever for that.
Okay, I'm going to interject because now my memories come back to me. The same thing with what he's saying. It was almost like living a fantasy land because there was in Germany. I remember being a kid. I'm only in kindergarten, and Dennis is older. And all of a sudden, everybody's getting dressed up, and Dad's dressed up, and Mom's got mink coats on, and we're getting all dolled up, and I'm like, where are we going? And Dad's like, I gotta play. So we go. This huge 3 or 4 story, big, huge apartment complex in Germany. They were massive, big, huge concrete. Rhonda lived down the road. I mean, it was just like, they were just like concrete, huge buildings, and everybody would go down in the basements of these places at this particular place because Dad was DJing. And so here we go down in these basements, and there's people everywhere, and they're all dressed to the nines, and it's like disco, it's everything, and it's hundreds of people. And I'm a kid, and I'm sure you'd think, oh, Mike, your perception probably was like 80. No. Everywhere, it was such a huge building. It was spread that wide under the ground. And so we're down there, and you're just coming down the staircase, and there's just people, and you just all dressed up like in a club. And Dad has got the whole DJ area, and he's just rocking the whole party. And I just remember walking around, and my mom's in mink, and everybody's just all dressed up, and I'm looking at my brother, and I'm just like, you just knew you weren't living a regular life like any old kid. Like, our friends were going to school, and the parents were in the military, but Dad was like, we were doing things like, what did y'all do? Why? I can't believe. Yes, it was the weirdest things, and his stories in Vegas and in Skate World, and just Dad.
Dad was the kind of guy that liked to do excitement. He'd get bored. I think I get it from him because I get bored real easy and I want to just do fun stuff. Let's go. This is too boring, too mundane. I'm tired of the same old, same old. And Dad was kind of, let's change it up. So after a rink one night, earlier that day, me and Dad were out. I was 17, and we saw this huge crane in the air, and it was like, so many stories, and people were jumping off this thing. So Dad's like, "You want to go?" I said, "Dad, go over there." And he's like, "Let's go look." So he had, back in the day, you had to develop your pictures at the lab at HB or wherever because you didn't have what you had. And so he's got his cameras and he's got all this. He goes, "Let's go look it out. Let's go check it out." We go over there, and they're bungee jumping off this crane, and it's in Killeen, and where we're gonna go to the rink and see everybody. And so Dad's like, "Why don't you gonna jump?" And I said, "I'll do it." And he goes, "All right, we'll go." And so I'm stupid. I'm 17. I was an adrenaline junkie, but I was like, I want to go up in here and do this, but something is, you're stupid. Why do you want to do that? But something in me wanted me to jump off this thing. So I ended up jumping twice that day. He takes all the pictures. He makes arrangements with these people and these guys with this crane to stay all day, right, and don't leave. We go and work the rink 7 to 11. All the employees are there. Everybody. Dad has brought all the pictures because he dropped them off at the lab that day. He went to pick them up in the hour photo, brought them back to the rink, and he's showing all the pictures. Hey, we're all bungee jumping on this thing. Let's go. He had reserved this thing, and so we are closing the rink at 11. You have to clean up the rink and be done by 12. Everybody's out the door. Everybody's in their cars. You got like 20-something cars going towards Killeen. This is at 11:30 at night. Here we go. So we get there. There's like all these other people that knew we were going to be there. They show up. So we had like 40-something people. There's lights everywhere. It's almost midnight. The music is going. Everybody's making their turns up in these cranes, jumping off. It's loud. Everybody's having a blast, sitting on the hoods of their cars. There are times where I would just pick her up after school. For that we had that. So, anyways, another little story. There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead now and begin the part of the service where we're going to do military honors. For those of you that have not been exposed to this before, there will be gunfire. That's why they're there. Okay? But I at least want you to be aware so you can prepare yourself for that.
Cover your ears.
Can everyone please rise?
Ready. Hey. Fire. Ready. Hey. Fire. Cease fire.
You may be seated. Today's Veterans Day. My father celebrated Veterans Day. He celebrated Memorial Day. He believed in them. He believed in his army. He believed in his soldiers. He believed in the men and women he served with. He believed in the men and women he worked with. He held everybody in the highest regard. Today is not just a day for my father. Today is a day for them. You look at them, you will see him and every other veteran that came before. And they will keep that memory of him alive and honor him in that memory. And we have the responsibility to represent our father, our brother, our friend. Some people go in this world. It's not our fault. It's the way it works. My mother, my father. "70 years is a long time. Doesn't seem quite long enough. But we were able to share a whole lot of that time with them. We weren't living a life where I was just gone somewhere else and never got to see them. We spent a great deal of time together. And as life is, parents die before their children. And that is the way it's supposed to be. After today, I hope that all of you would know that my father would be proud of this day, how it was conducted, how it was carried out. We also hope that we represented you correctly, because we knew that you had expectations as we did. Not because of me or my sister, but because of who my father was. And he is alive in me, my sister, in all of you, in the children, and the grandchildren. People die, but some people are missed so much more. It just happens that way. And it makes so much of a difference when they're no longer here. The day's a little gray. My father and my mother had belief in God, had belief in country, had belief in family, community, friendship. They were always in service to those around them. The respect that I have fills me up for who they were and what they accomplished. Me and my sister never wanted for anything. They made sure of that. And we do the same for our children and those around us. At this time, we're going to go ahead and conclude this service. We will walk down to the burial site. Anyone that feels comfortable doing that, be advised it is muddy, may do so. It will not take long. We will not be staying down there. And we will come back up here if you wish to stay and visit. That'll be fine. We would, because of circumstances and setting up this morning, we didn't get a lot of chance to spend time with each of you and get a chance to visit. If you have other obligations, that's perfectly fine. We understand. No hard feelings. If you've got other obligations you need to meet, we understand. We love you. My father loved you. He respected you. And he wanted only nothing but the best for each and every one of you. As do I, as do my sister. And I'm not afraid of the future, because I had one hell of a teacher. Not just in my father, but in all of you. All of you have taught me something. All of you have raised me up, and my sister. One hell of a family. At this time, if you would like to go down to the grave with us, we're going to fall out right here on the roadway in front of the patrol vehicle and walk down. Anyone else that wants to stay, that's fine. We also have a guest book up here. We have guest cards. There are pennies up here on top of the table up here with crosses cut into them. Those are from Dad. He had those made. And y'all are welcome to take those. We also have some other items of his here. The coin, his first Cav flag, things of that nature. I know these are things that he wouldn't mind y'all having. No, this is his belt buckle. Okay, so Lena's going to keep the belt buckle. Oh, and just so you know, just in case it does hit you, if you go to the new museum at Fort Hood, we had commemorative bricks made. If you ever do go to that museum, go to the American flag on the flagpole, look straight down, a little bit to the left, you'll see my father there. And we got him the big brick, not the little. So, I want to thank the chaplain, our gunnery team that came out. I don't know if you're aware of it, but nowadays you usually get a 3-man shooter team. My father got 7. And you better dang well believe he earned it. So, I want to thank you and commend your men for an outstanding job. Outstanding. I'm proud to have been here with you today. I'm proud that you were here with us supporting our family. And at no point in no time will we ever badmouth you. And if you ever need anything, you call on this family, we're going to be there. Okay? And I also want to say to you, Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your sacrifice. Anyone that would like to fall out here, please, we're going to go ahead and